Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Rezi Darini, MVP Principal Consultant at Catapult Systems USA, who will be talking to you today about building Power Platform solutions using Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC21. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit SharePointEurope.com and click the content link at the top. ESPC 21 Online will take place on the 1st and 2nd of June 2021. Be part of this event. Simply register today for free. We also just announced our keynotes. Full details are at SharePointEurope.com. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, who has recently hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Reza Darini. Hello, Reza.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Are you able to share your screen there, Reza? Yep, I can see it. Take it away.
All right, I should be sharing my presentation any moment. Let me know if you can see my presentation, please.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. This is Reza Dorani. Thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar. The session today is on building Power Platform solutions using Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. A little bit about me. My name is Reza Dorani. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, a Microsoft certified trainer, a Power Platform practice lead at my organization, Catapult Systems. And now I can probably say I'm a certified YouTuber as well, who video blogs about all things Power Platform on my YouTube channel. And that is my Twitter handle, once again, solely dedicated to the Power Platform. So the learning objectives for today's webinar, we're going to look at Microsoft Teams and Power Platform. What do these two platforms provide and how the amalgamation of both these platforms has resulted into something known as Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. We will look at the different features for Dataverse for Teams, and we will also observe the security aspect related to Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. All of this we will observe through demos, live demos, as well as a pre-built demo of an expense reporting solution that I set up leveraging Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So let's get started with today's session. Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. It's the collaboration platform for M365, wherein you can chat, have calls, meetings, all of this with enterprise-grade security, compliance, and manageability. The key aspect of Microsoft Teams is the fact that you can integrate other M365 apps or beyond, basically cloud apps, into Microsoft Teams. You can also build your own apps in Teams, but for that, you have to be in the pro dev space, which is the professional development space, in order to go ahead and build apps specific for Microsoft Teams. On the other side, we have the Microsoft Power Platform, which is the low-code platform that spans the entire suite of products, Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, Azure, and beyond. And as part of Microsoft 365 Power Platform, we have the four major pillars: Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Power BI is to analyze our data, build dashboards and reports. Power Apps is the app making experience for the web and mobile devices. Power Automate is the workflow automation engine. And Power Virtual Agents allows us to build intelligent chatbots. All of this in a low code, no code experience, more focused on citizen development. As part of the Power Platform, there is a key data service that this platform exposes, and that data service is known as Microsoft Dataverse, formerly known as the Common Data Service or the CDS. Now, Microsoft Dataverse, also known as CDS, is not just a database that is provided as part of the Power Platform. In reality, this is a data service. Of course, you can store data, but like a service, it provides a lot of additional capabilities. Storing relational data, modeling your data on the fly, data validations, calculations, business rules, duplicate detections, and a lot more. The security aspect of the Common Data Service or Microsoft Dataverse follows the security protocol of Microsoft 365. And Microsoft Dataverse extends with Azure. So in the backend, there is a lot of components in Azure that back up or basically run your Microsoft Dataverse environment. It includes load balancing, Azure Web Jobs, Cosmos DB, Event Hubs, Azure Functions. Basically, it adds the full spectrum of Azure and powers your data service, which is Microsoft Dataverse, so that as your data grows or your data shrinks, accordingly, servers are set up to handle the performance and scalability of your data. That's an extremely powerful feature for Microsoft Dataverse. Now introducing our topic for today, which is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. And what is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams? Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is basically a built-in low-code data platform for Microsoft Teams. This data platform is nothing but Microsoft Dataverse, available to you in Microsoft Teams. And not just that, you can even build low-code, no-code apps using Power Apps, flows or workflow automations using Power Automate, and chatbots using Power Virtual Agents, all of these directly within Microsoft Teams. And this data platform that is being exposed as part of Microsoft Teams contains a subset of the capabilities of the full platform, which is Microsoft Dataverse. The key aspects of that data platform is the fact that you can store relational data with rich data types and comes with a lot of enterprise grade capabilities. So the basic features of that platform are still available in Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is included at no additional cost for Microsoft Teams customers. As long as you have a valid or a seeded Office license that covers Microsoft Teams, you already have the option for working with Microsoft Dataverse for Teams at no additional cost. And of course, because this data service is being provided to you for Microsoft Teams, and there is only a subset of the capabilities, there are going to be some limitations. Here is the first limitation. You can have a maximum of 1 million records or 2 gigs of storage capacity per team. So each team in which you build your app gets this environment which has this database called Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. You have a cap or a limit on that database, and that limit is 1 million records or 2 GB storage capacity. Also, very recently announced at Microsoft Ignite, in fact, this was announced last week, you have the ability to create Microsoft Dataverse for Teams environments for up to 10,000 teams in your tenant and more, depending upon the number of M365 licenses your tenant owns. This limit previously was 500. This has been increased 20 times. Another announcement that came in last week at Microsoft Ignite is the ability now to upgrade to the full Microsoft database feature set once you hit the 1 million record or the 2 gig storage capacity for your team. Needless to say, if you upgrade to the full version comes at a licensing cost. It requires premium licensing. Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is available for free as long as you have a valid license to use Microsoft Teams. Also for Power BI, there is the feature of enabling direct query to this database that you create in Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So through Power BI, you can connect to Dataverse for Teams and run reports and dashboards, basically visualizations against your data in Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So with Dataverse for Teams, I can build apps, flows, and bots, and all of this at no licensing cost. Yes, I get a full relational data storage system. Yes, with rich data types. Yes. But how does the security of this aspect or this solution work? Now, because Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is built for Teams, the security, needless to say, is going to follow the protocol of Microsoft Teams. And in Teams, there are 3 types of users that are available today: owners, members, and guest users. And because Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is built for Teams, it's going to follow the same security model. So owners will have full access to all the tables that are created in that Microsoft team environment. Owners can create apps, they can create flows, they can create bots, all within that team in which they are an owner of. Members, on the other hand, also have exactly the same permissions as owners. They have full access to all the tables. They can also create apps and flows and bots. Guest users, on the other hand, only have access to their own records in those tables. That means they have private access to any data that is created in those tables. And because they are guest users, they cannot create any apps or flows or bots in the tenant. Now, this was the basic behavior of Dataverse for Teams security when this was first launched in October. However, over time, there have been a lot of improvements made. One of the big requirements or one of the big requests from the community was the fact that members having full access to tables may not be the best idea. So what the team came up with are new options to set permissions at a table level. So now we have 2 new pieces of options that we can play with. The first one is table permissions. And if you look at the screenshot on the right hand side, as an owner of the team, I can decide the security or the permissions at a table level. By default, members of the team have full access. That can be changed. It can be changed to collaborate access, wherein they can create records, they can read all the records, but they can only update and delete their own records. Members can be given private access, wherein they can create records. However, they can only read, update, and delete their own records. Or you can also give them referential access, wherein the only access they have is to read all the data. And finally, there is also a setting called none, wherein members have no access to that table whatsoever. And the same security can be applied to guest users as well. The default behavior is members have full access, guest users have private access. Another feature that's available here is the ability to share your apps that you build, your bots that you build in Dataverse for Teams along with the tables to users who are not even a part of your Microsoft team. And for that, there is a new feature called Share with Colleagues. And in there, you can define a security group. And all the users of that security group will get access to the apps, the flows, the bots, and the tables that you grant permissions to as part of the process. So the concept here is you can even bring users who are not a part of your team. You could have a private team wherein you would not like to share the chat and files associated with that team, but you want to share the app that you've built and maybe the tabular data associated with it. You can do that now with Share with Colleagues. And with Dataverse for Teams, you can build multiple apps, multiple flows, and multiple bots. You're not limited to a single app. You can deploy all of this to Microsoft Teams with one single button click. And I will show this in the form of a live demo in the next 5 minutes. The app comes in with a lot of inbuilt native features. At the same time, you have the ability now to import solutions as well as exporting solutions. The option is coming soon. And what are solutions? Solution is basically the entire package working together. Your tables, your apps, your flows, your bots. If I build something for one team and I would like to reuse that in a different team, I can export all of that, package it together, and deploy it in a separate team, or even deploy it on the App Store in my Microsoft Teams so other users can leverage it. Because Microsoft Dataverse for Teams is built for Teams, of course, Power Apps in general, and I'm specifically talking about Canvas apps here, Canvas apps are not responsive by design. Because Microsoft Dataverse for Teams came into existence, and Teams is something that users access on the go, on their mobile devices, tablets, desktops, the need for building responsive apps is extremely crucial. And with that in mind came the introduction of new container controls, which simplifies the process of building responsive apps in Power Apps in general. And of course, that same goodness also comes to Dataverse for Teams. And the last part before we head over to the demo is the ability now to build custom connectors as well for Dataverse for Teams using Azure API management. So if you've ever built a custom connector in the Power Platform, once you build that connector, any app or flow that leverages that connector would require a premium license for every user who is interacting with that connector. That was by design. However, now for Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, if you build your custom connector using Azure API management and you push that connector down from Azure APIM, those connectors would be treated as standard connectors. That means you would not require any additional licensing cost. The only costs that you would incur are the costs for Azure, and trust me, those are peanuts as compared to the premium licensing costs that you would have to incur in case of a standard custom connector. Okay, let's lead over now to demo and let's look at what is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So out here in Microsoft Teams, I have an app that I have installed as part of Teams, and it's called Power Apps. And how did I install this app? All you have to do is just go to apps and search for Power Apps, and you should get the Power Apps app for Microsoft Teams. All you have to do is just select this. If you have installed this before, like in my case, I get the option to open it. If it is the first time, you will be asked to install it. Once it's installed, I would recommend to right click and pin the app on the left-hand navigation rail in Teams so that you can always quickly get started with building solutions using Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. And right here is where I can start creating apps for Microsoft Teams. Now, as part of today's demo, I already created a team right before this meeting called Power Platform Week, PPW. And if I head back to my Power Apps app in Microsoft Teams, right here on the home screen itself, I have a lot of options to leverage. First thing is the easy button, which is create an app, and literally we can build an app in 5 minutes using Microsoft Dataverse for Teams features. At the same time, right here, you can see all your recent apps that you have built as part of the teams that you're a part of. You can also leverage templates. And there are 5 really cool templates that are provided as part of Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. I will showcase one of the templates today, which is the milestones template, which is personally my favorite template of all of these 5. You also have some really good learn materials right here at the bottom. Sadly, it's at the bottom, but if you scroll down, these videos will help you quickly get started with building apps and making yourself familiar with Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. I will highly recommend you to watch these. Back to the app. So in my case, I want to create a very simple app. So I'll say create an app. And right here, I get an option to choose my team for which I'm building my app. Remember, this is Dataverse for Teams. Everything will be related to a Microsoft team. So in this case, I already have my team created. I will select my team and click create. And just like that, the Power Apps Maker experience is going to open up directly within the context of Microsoft Teams. I'm not even leaving my Teams interface. Right now, I'm accessing Teams on the browser. If I was on my browser, if I was on the client itself, the experience would be exactly the same. So let's say in this case, I'm going to create a work progress tracker solution right here, just building an app for work progress tracking so that all the members of my team can track progress of their work. I've given my app a name. Now I want to start creating content. Now, first thing is I need to create tables to store my data, and I would like to leverage Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. And right here is the option for me to go ahead and create a table on the fly. I can give my table a name. I'll call this my work items. I'll click create. And this creates a table in that database that just got created for this Microsoft team. And as part of this table, you get a default column called name, which of course can be changed. You can rename this. And if I go to plus, very similar to SharePoint, very similar to Excel as well, on the fly, I can create columns right here. So for example, I have the name of my task. I would like to have a description for my task. The type will be text. And I would like to increase the max length to 1000 for this. Okay, so I've got the name of my task, the description of my task. Maybe I would like to add the due date of my task. And I have a column type called date that I can choose from. I can even add columns of type choice. So in this case, I can go and say I would like to add choices, and my choices for priority are going to be low, medium, and high. And finally, I would like to go ahead and assign the task to a user. So I can just call this assigned to, and right here, I can just go and pick the type email and click create. Just like that, I built a table on the fly in Dataverse for Teams in Teams using the Power Apps app. And this is very similar to Excel. I can directly edit this grid on the fly right here. So right now I have a task of running the webinar. Run the webinar. Due date of the task is today. Priority of this task, well, for me is super high. And this task is assigned to Reza. And I have to plug in an email address, a valid email address in here in order to set this up. And just like that, I created a record in my table. And of course, I can add more columns, and I can do a lot more. Now, once I'm done with this, I will click on close. Now, what this does is it's associating that table that I just created as part of my app. And you can see the association right here. I can even create additional tables by just going to create a table and create more tables. I can create relationships between tables. All of these features are available in Dataverse for Teams. And please bear in mind, Because this is Dataverse for Teams, this does not mean you have to use this database. You're not forced to use this. I can go to add data, I can go to connectors, and this lists out all those 450 plus connectors that are available today as part of the Power Platform. So if I would like to talk to SharePoint, I can connect to SharePoint right here, get my data from SharePoint, get my data from SQL, Excel. No matter what your data source is, you can get the information right here. But please bear in mind that when you're connecting to a data source, every connector has this feature which shows up whether it is premium or not. If the connector is premium and I'm leveraging that connector in my app, in that case, all the users would require a premium license. SharePoint is a standard connector, so it does not show up that symbol. And Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, as you can see, is also a standard connector in this case. So I do not have any licensing implications for now. If I preview this app, what Dataverse for Teams has done is it has actually gone ahead and even set up a default template for me connecting to that table that I just created. So guess what? Here is the record as part of my table. And these are the details associated with that record. I can even go ahead and edit this and modify this on the fly. Change the status to priority, click save. I can even click and create a new record on the fly right here. And all of these capabilities is because of the native template that's available, which is called the hero layout template, which creates this full CRUD-like experience against your table. Now, of course, this is Power Apps and you're not limited to what is available here. I can easily go ahead and create new screens, use any of the screen templates, connect to data sources, add labels, controls. I have the full power of the platform available for me right here in Dataverse for Teams. And once I'm done with building my app for my team, when I would like to publish this to my team, all I have to do is click this one button, which is publish to Teams. Because this is the first time that I've created the app, it's saving the app. I'll click next so that it publishes the app. And now this app is ready to be consumed by all the members and owners and guest users of my team. This is now listing out all the channels of my team. So in which channel would I like to add this app as a tab? I only have the general channel, so I'll click on plus. It's gone ahead and added this app. I will click save and close. This will now go ahead, associate this app. Let me try this once again. Associate this app to the tab and go ahead and close my browser interface. Now, if I head over to Teams, or if any member or a guest user heads to that team, in this case, I have my team called Power Platform Weekly. I should have that tab showing up right here. In this case, I don't because of that issue when I publish the app. I would have to republish it. However, as part of the demo for today, I have already gone ahead and created a very similar app called the Work Progress Tracking app. The only difference here is that I have gone ahead and built out the app completely using a lot of the features that's available in the Power Apps. So as you can see right here, this is a work progress tracking app that's showing me data that is living in my table for this Microsoft team. And I can go ahead and add new records right here on the fly. So right here, I'm going to create a new task. Maybe I have the webinar task. I'm going to give this a sample description. I will set the priority. This is not started. This is related to marketing research. You can see the different capabilities that's available right here in Power Apps. And all of this literally was built in a matter of hours. And I was able to push and create a fully functional work progress tracking app to my Microsoft team. Now, if I head back to the Power Apps app in Microsoft Teams, and if I head over to the Build tab this time, if I look at my team, which is Power 365, if I head over to See All, this will show me all the artifacts that have been created as part of this team. And here is my app, the editable grid-like app that I created. If I go to Tables, this will list out all the tables that are created as part of my team. And right here, I only have a single table. And if I go to edit data, this will show me all that data that I was showcasing in that app. That same experience is available right here as well. Now, the reason I came here was to show you two things. One is the ability to manage permissions. So by default, owners have full access to all the tables, and that cannot be changed. However, for members, they do have full access by default at a table level, but I can change that. Maybe in my case, I want members to only read data. So I can select the reference access and click save. And just like that, I have changed the security for members related to the data. I can do the same thing for guest users. I can even do the same thing for users who are not a part of my team by sharing it with them. Also, if I try and add a column right here, remember I said Microsoft Dataverse comes with rich data types. These are the rich data types. Check out the different column types that are available, and I can vouch for this. No other data source has this level of rich data types that it exposes. From text controls to text area, email, stock ticker symbols, phone numbers, durations, you name it. It comes with a wide variety of column types, files, images, floating point numbers, and this is only growing. Also, Dataverse for Teams is relational in nature. And how do you create relationships? Well, just head over to relationships and you can create relationships on the fly, literally through a GUI, graphical user interface like experience right here. So maybe I have multiple tables and I would like to relate these tables together. I can go and pick the relationship type, select my secondary table and click done. And just like that, this data service, which is Microsoft Dataverse, will handle all the aspects for us, the primary key, the foreign key, the relational data, it's all managed for you. The backend for Dataverse is actually SQL. If you've ever worked with SQL before, when you want to create relationships between tables, you have to do the work. You have to create the key, the foreign key, you have to do that work. In this case, literally point and click. For the SharePoint folks in the room, please bear in mind, SharePoint is not a relational database. There are a lot of challenges with SharePoint. Dataverse alleviates all of those challenges. And of course, you are not only limited to building apps, you can build chatbots, you can build flows, all of this within the context of Microsoft Teams. Now I will head over to a real world example of something that I actually built for my own organization. And this is something known as an expense report app. And for this, I will actually try and see if I can project my mobile device on my screen, because I would like to show you how this app even works on a mobile device. So I will go ahead and broadcast my device. Fingers crossed on this one. All right. So the first part worked. Second, I will head over to Microsoft Teams. Now this is live on my mobile device. I have a theme right here on the top called Play Zone. I'm going to click on this. This is a trial version of my app. I'll head over to more. And right here, I have a tab called expense reporting. Remember, when you build solutions, apps, you publish it to teams as tabs. So right here is my expense reporting tab. I'm going to select that. This will now launch my Power App right here in the context of Microsoft Teams. And as part of this app, the main features here are expense reporting, wherein users can come in, create their expenses, upload their receipts, and send it for approvals. The approvers are dynamically defined based on the user's department. The approvers get notified, they approve or reject. Emails go through back and forth. So it's a fully fledged working expense reporting solution. And right here on the home screen, I can see all of my expenses. And I can even see the status of my expenses. So if I click pending, it will show me my pending expenses. If I click approved, showing me my approved expenses, and so on and so forth. Now in this case, I'll go and create a brand new expense. I'll give this expense a name. I'm going to call this ESPC21. I'll pick a start date. And please note how it is following the theme of the Microsoft team, the purple theme of Teams. I'll pick my date. I'll pick my end date. And right here, I can pick a cost center to whom I would like to assign this expense to. In my case, I have Contoso and Microsoft. I'll go and associate this to Contoso. And I will say this was my virtual lunch that I had. Once I'm done with this, I will click on create. And what this is doing at the back end right now is I have a table of expenses. It just created a record in that table. That's all I've done so far. Now next comes the relational nature of the system. For each expense, a user can have multiple line items. So how do I create or how do I architect my backend tables? Very simple. I create a line items table. I create an expenses table. I relate the expenses table to the line items table in a one-to-many fashion using that relationship experience that I just showed you earlier. One click, literally one click, and it related the tables together. And right here now, I can create my line items. And users have to upload receipts when they are creating the expense. And this is a real world example of my organization. I am a consultant. I go all around meeting customers and I have to put in my expenses. And many a times when I grab my receipts, either while having lunch or maybe my gas expenses, I typically lose those receipts. I have to go back to my system. There's no mobile app available. And right here now, within a matter of hours, this app was built. So I can go ahead now and click on upload receipt. Now, because I'm on my mobile device and this is Power Apps can talk to all the native capabilities on your mobile device. One of them being the camera control. So I can actually launch the camera control right here. And this is live, by the way, just to prove my point. Hello. This is live. And I have a receipt that I basically stole from the web. Just going to go ahead and grab a picture of this. So imagine I'm having a lunch with a customer. I got the receipt. I just grabbed a picture of that. And I'm going to click done. Now comes some more magic. Magic of AI, artificial intelligence, magic of custom connector and Azure APIM. If you observe right now, I did not type anything, but the name of the merchant, the dollar amount of that expense, and the transaction date were all plugged in. And this was not plugged in by me. This is AI. The moment I uploaded that image, I called a workflow, which is Power Automate. And Power Automate in turn went ahead and called a custom connector that I built, which talks to Azure Cognitive Services, which allows me to do receipt scanning. All I have to do is provide it the image. It will scan the image and send me the data points back. And I'm leveraging those data points right here to plug in my data. And once I'm done with that, I can just select my category, click save. And just like that, I created an expense, added a line item, and associated it with that expense, relational. You see the association is right here. I can see the dollar amount. I can even modify it, or I can even go ahead and look at the live image, a picture of the image that I took live. And this is relational. I'm not limited to one expense. Obviously I only have one receipt, so I'll have to keep taking that same picture. But you get the crux of this, right? I'm going to take the picture again. Once again, AI is going to be called in. While AI does its work, let me go ahead and fill in the other details. And once AI completes it, it's going to plug in the data. I'll click on save. And just like that, I have that information right here as well. So it's now a total of $97.20. Once I'm done with my expense, I will go ahead and click submit. And the moment I click submit, my expense approval process begins. Here is my expense item. I can look at all the line items. I can look at the details. I can even look at who the approver is and send them an email right here by clicking on this link. Now at the back end, this approver will get an approval task using Power Automate. The approver will approve or reject it, and based on that scenario, I will be notified, and accordingly the finance team will provide me my reimbursement. So that's how simple it can be to create solutions with relational data. And in a matter of literally days, you can build solutions like these, leveraging Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Now, of course, you're not just limited to apps. You can even build bots. So on my left-hand navigation rail, and I could have shown this on the mobile device, but I wanted to show it to you in the browser. I have a bot that I created using same Dataverse for Teams. And in this bot, and I'm going to try and zoom in, I'm going to chat with this bot. I'm going to say, hello, natural language processing, low code. So I've said hello. The bot responds with, hi, Reza. So it is contextually aware of who is interacting with this bot. I am a virtual agent. I can help you with your expense details. So I will say, yeah, I need expense, and I'll purposely spell things wrong here. Expense details info. Okay, I'm purposely spelling incorrectly here because I want to show you that how the bot is smart enough to understand the intent of the user. This is all through the power of AI natively baked in to power virtual agents. And all of this, what I'm showing you today, is all available for free at no additional license cost, as long as you're leveraging Dataverse for Teams like I am as part of this demo. Okay, now the bot is asking me, you need your expense details, but which status are you looking out for? All statuses, pending, approved, rejected. Let's say I'm interested in my pending statuses. So the bot says, okay, are you looking out for a specific dollar amount to search for? So I'll say, yes, I'm looking out for 50, anything greater than $50. This is natural language again. I could have typed in 50, I can type 50, I can say the amount is $50. The bot will understand my intent. And right here, what has happened right now is the bot has gone ahead, called a workflow to query my data source and get me the details of all my expenses that are in the pending status and are greater than $50. And guess what? Right here is the expense that I created live on the fly on this meeting, which is ESPC 21, $97.20. It's currently pending. So rather than the users even interacting with the app, they can even interact with the bot. I could have even created the expense in the bot. I could have asked questions to the user and created the expense on the fly using the bot experience itself. That's the power of all of these low code tools that the Power Platform provides. And now in Teams, with the help of that powerful data service, which is Microsoft Dataverse, you can imagine the kind of solutions you can design. So this was one example. Let me show you a few more. Here is an example of a very simple help desk application. Users can come in, create tickets. Tickets get assigned to the respective department. Once they process it, the user gets notified. Built on Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Here's another one, a video library, which gives me live feeds of all the videos of a peculiar channel that I'm interested in on YouTube. Sadly, that's not mine, but it's fine. Here's another example of a quiz app. And this app has been built keeping responsive design in mind, wherein users of my team will be provided with a quiz, a challenge, wherein they have to answer all the questions, and based on their response, I can store that information. Maybe this could be like a certification app that I built internal to my organization. Check this out. And this is inspired from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, by the way. So I'll say start the quiz. And just to prove my point that this is completely responsive in nature, check this out. Even if I reduce the width of my screen, you see how everything is responsive. It just automatically adjusts. I'm going to go here. It's going to fire the first question. And this is an audio question, and I have not shared the audio, so you will not be able to hear this, but I can play the audio recording. And I know the answer. It's Satya. So I'm going to select the right answer, click close, move ahead. Here comes my next question. What's the first action in flow? It's the right answer, move ahead. And it's just a very simple app, and I purposely gave a wrong answer to end it. Once I go through and answer all my questions, I get points associated with it. And now I can even go and brag about this in my team. I can go and post this to my team and say, hey guys, I earned 1,000 points by taking the Power Champion quiz. And for the team, if I head over to the chat interface, here is Flo posting a nice looking adaptive card saying, yep, Reza scored 1,000 points and Reza just took the quiz. So it's fun, right? Many users in my team, all the users in my team can take the quiz on the fly, and we can have some sort of competition, or this could be like a certification app wherein I can print out a certificate if they complete the quiz. Many organizations invest heavily in apps for security, right? Wherein users have to go through a set of videos to understand the security protocols. Well, guess what? That quiz, that test can be taken right here as well. Using this app, you can think of a lot of scenarios where this could be leveraged. And this is all within Teams. This is all leveraging Dataverse for Teams. I even have a leaderboard wherein I'm storing all the scores that the users are earning in a table, right? I need a data source to store the information. Now, another one of the apps that I would like to show is something known as Milestones. And Milestones is one of the templates that is available as part of Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So this is not something that I have built from scratch. All I had to do literally was come here, select the template, which is Milestones, and say, I would like to add this to a team and pick my team. And within 5 minutes, this solution was ready in my team. And here's what the solution looks like. It's a complete milestone tracking application from start to finish. If you go and look at the data or the structure of the tables in the backend, it's completely powered with the relational data model of Microsoft Dataverse. You have a table for projects. You have a table for milestones. You have a table for tracking data. You have a table for tracking activity logging. All data is segregated in tables, and all of these tables are related together through the power of the relational behavior of Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Extremely, extremely powerful. And check this out. Here's the project. I can go and create a new project right here on the fly. I can create a project, create the milestones of my project, and I'm done. Once I'm done with that, I can start creating work items and assign it to the different members of my project associated with a milestone, status, and just like that, that data will be populated in this grid. And when a user selects a record and updates something, so let's say I change the priority from P1 to P0, click done, this will now store that information to my data source. And if you observe the activity log on the right hand side, it just logged an entry which says that Reza changed the status of this priority to P0. So it's a complete tracking app, a project milestone tracking app that's available right here. And the beauty is, this is Power Apps. This is Dataverse for Teams. If you want to take this to the next level, you want to add more things, you want to change the behavior of this app, add your own company logos, make modifications, easy. Let's go back to Dataverse for Teams. Go to your team, select your team, select that Milestones app, and start modifying it based on your needs. So these were all of the demos that I planned to cover. I hope I was able to cover a wide spectrum of demos around what you could potentially do with this solution called Microsoft Dataverse, or this feature called Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. Quickly heading back to my presentation, and I would like to grant time for Q&A as well. Some learning resources for everyone to get started with, and I will post these links in the chat as well later on. The first one is, if you would like to get started with learning Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, that's the short URL, bit.ly/Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, all lowercase. This will lead you to a series of videos that I did on Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. This will show you how to build a help desk application, the one that I demoed earlier, from scratch. We will create tables, we'll create the app, we'll create the workflows, notification emails, all the chatbot, everything's in there. So if you would like to learn that, here's the link. Next is the official announcement or the official blog post from Microsoft around Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. And then nothing beats the official documentation on docs.microsoft.com, all covering Dataverse for Teams. If you like the expense reporting solution that I demonstrated earlier, I even have a full video walkthrough of that solution. I just scratched the surface on that. Trust me when I say that. There's a lot more to it. If you want to see that in more depth, that's the link. And you can also download that solution for free. Bear in mind, the solution that I'm providing for downloading is using the full Dataverse feature set. So for that, you would need premium licensing. Reza, why have you not shared the Dataverse for Teams solution which is free. The reason is because right now there's no exporting feature in Dataverse for Teams. Once that feature comes in, rest assured I will share it on my GitHub repo. So please do follow me there. And finally, the floor is now open for questions. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present today. Thank you for your time. And these are the details to connect with me. That's the link to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for Reza Dorani. My channel should pop up straight away. Make sure you get connected with me there. I'm most active on YouTube, always answering questions. That's my Twitter handle, my email, and my website. And that's my kid at the back.
Thank you for a great presentation, Reza. Yes, now we will start the questions and answers part. And should you wish to ask a question, please type it into the questions window now. Okay, Reza, we have quite a few questions in, so I'll start firing them over to you and we'll see what we get through in the next 10
firing
minutes.
the questions while I put in all the links in the chat. Go for it.
Super. Okay, can you export a solution built in Microsoft Teams in one tenant and import it into another tenant?
Coming soon. Coming very, very soon. I know the date. Being an MVP, I get a lot of insights. Unfortunately, I can't share that. All I can tell you is coming very soon, wherein you can export solutions from one team to another, from one tenant to another.
Okay, brilliant. Is there different instances of Dataverse for Teams in one tenant?
Is there different instances of Dataverse for Teams in one? So if I'm assuming my screen is still being shared here.
Yeah.
So every team that creates an app, in any team, when you create the first app, it creates an environment for you in the backend. So right now I'm heading over to the Power Platform Admin Center. So if you notice right here, I have a lot of environments, and these environments have something known as type. The type here is Microsoft Teams. So for this team, there is an environment. So each team has its own specific instance of Dataverse for Teams. So they are all separate. It's based on a single team. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Okay. Can we have different Power Platform and connected to this Dataverse environments in Microsoft Teams?
Yes, of course. I'm assuming the question is, can I have different connectors? Can I use different connectors? Yes, you can. I kind of showed that quickly in the demo, wherein you can add any data source of your choice in there. Possible.
Okay. It is a bit confusing. Are Dataverse providers per Teams in Microsoft Teams, or is it one Dataverse for the MS Teams in the tenant?
Each team has its own database, which is called Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. It is per team. Each team gets its own Dataverse, and that's called Dataverse for Teams. And you can have up to 10,000 teams today that can have Dataverse for Teams environments created. So one environment per team, 1:1 relationship, as you can see right here.
Okay. Would guest users also have access to Dataverse for Teams? Is there a limit on number of guests for Teams?
No, there is no limits here. I believe right now the limit on the number of members that you can have as part of the team is 10,000 today. I may be wrong on this. I think it's 10,000. So it could be any combination. It could be guest users, members, owners, it doesn't matter.
Okay. When you install Power Apps in Microsoft Teams, can you limit the use of it for selected users?
Great question. Fantastic question. This is around governance now. It could get quite scary, right? Admin center, everyone is creating an app. Guess what? These environments are growing, right? Every team wants an app. It's growing. There's no governance. Can I block users from doing this? Yes. This is the responsibility though of the Teams admin. So the Microsoft Teams admin, if they go to the admin center in Teams, you have the options wherein you can decide which apps are exposed to which users. That's why you can block these apps. You would have to block Power Apps, and there is also an app, by the way, for Power Virtual Agent. So you would have to block both of them for your specific users. Again, this is governance. So if you want to do that, it's possible, but it can only be done by the Teams administrator or, of course, the global administrator of the tenant.
Okay, probably more related to Power Apps rather than Dataverse. Can you have rich text boxes, i.e. text boxes including text formatting, images, etc.?
Yes, yeah. Including images. Not including images, but you can have there's a rich text field in Power Apps. I've done a video on that. There is a rich text field, but you cannot have images in there. You would have to store images separately.
Okay. What happens when you want to change the data structure, i.e. move a field out of a new table and
Yeah,
adding a foreign key lookup to the new table?
yeah.
Any data migration features?
So, great question. Probably two-part question here. One is how do I modify things, right? So I can just head back to the build tab, go to my tables, and make modifications, right? If I want to delete a specific column, like if I want to delete this column, I can change it. I can add columns. I want to change my relationships. I can do that right here on the fly. The foreign key, primary key, you don't have to even worry about those things. They are all managed for you on the fly in Dataverse for Teams. Coming to data migration, there is now an option wherein you can actually go ahead, and for some reason this looks like this is brand new, it just came in last week. uh, I can even go ahead and export my data in my tables to Excel. And don't forget, this is Dataverse for Teams. I can write a Power Automate, a workflow, a job that can connect to this data, and I can migrate and export this to any other data source of my choice. All of those options are available.
Okay. Is Dataverse limited to be used with Power Apps? Can you use SPFX, etc., to build Dataverse apps?
Currently, it is limited to only I won't say Power Apps because it's apps, flows, bots, and dashboards. So it's currently limited only to, when I say Dataverse, I mean Dataverse for Teams. Dataverse for Teams is only limited to the Power Platform features. The APIs are blocked. The full Dataverse option. So if you go to actual Power Apps, that's where you get the full power of Dataverse. That's a premium feature. You need additional premium licensing for that. And the tables that I build here in Power Apps, this is the full Dataverse. These have APIs that SPFX can call into. SharePoint framework, I love it.
Okay. Bear with me, this one's quite long, so
Keep going. Keep going.
I'm going to take a deep breath here. Okay, this all looks great, but the biggest gotcha I see is the 2 GB limit. I
Yes.
do work
Yes.
for a few nonprofits who have the Office 365 licenses free, and I've
Yeah.
done lots with Power Apps from SharePoint lists in place
Yeah.
of Dataverse tables,
Yeah.
which can do most of what's needed, but
Yeah.
we have 1 TB of storage there. Do you see the 2 GB limit being an issue where non-profits are involved as they can't afford premium licenses to get the full Dataverse?
Fab question. Really. Uh, let's put it this way. I don't think even non-profits. I think it will concern a lot of organizations. Once the premium license will concern certain organizations, at least organizations that cannot afford those kind of licenses for all their users, it will concern them. Is 2 GB a concern? Is 1 million records a concern? Now, the user mentioned SharePoint. How many times in SharePoint have you actually had 1 million rows in all your lists combined in a site? Think about a team as a site. How many times? Probably 1 in a million. Very rare case wherein you have 1 million records in your SharePoint repository. Now I'll tell you where the problem is. The 2 GB capacity or the 1 million record capacity is not a problem, at least for solutions that you build, because even if I hit those crazy limits, there has to be some sort of archiving of data. I can easily write a job that says, go connect to that table. I can write a flow that says, connect to the table and archive all the data which is older than 3 years old, right? And I can move it into another system of record, Excel, whatever, is cheaper data source, maybe even SharePoint. Just move it there and store it for historical records. Can be done. The challenge I see in Dataverse for Teams is the fact that storing files and images. Files and images can quickly eat up that 2 GB capacity very easily. So I do foresee many solutions. In fact, I'm working with a couple of customers right now wherein we are storing the metadata in Dataverse for Teams, whereas the files and the images, guess what? We are storing in SharePoint because we have a lot of capacity in SharePoint. So I wouldn't call that as a makeshift solution. It's basically trying to leverage the best of both worlds. We are trying to leverage the capabilities of SharePoint as well as Dataverse for Teams. Can I store the files and images in Dataverse for Teams as well? Of course you can. In Dataverse for Teams, You have options of adding columns of type file. You can even add columns of type images. But of course, these are going to be stored in that database. So you will quickly hit the 2 GB limit. So you would have to be aware of that fact. So long answer, but great question.
Super. And we're pretty much out of time, but here's the last question for today.
I'm okay to go over. Keep going.
If you are creating multiple applications within a team, what is the recommended way to create separate tables in Dataverse?
Great question. Now that's the responsibility of the owners and members of the team. The recommended way would be, of course, try and segregate your data out in as many tables as you can, because there are no limits in how many tables you can create or how many relationships you can create relationships. The challenge would be when two app makers are trying to connect to the same table and they're trying to basically add different metadata points. So you got to be aware of that fact. Best practices, there are a lot of good documentation around on the docs.microsoft.com. So I would highly recommend you to read those.
Super. On behalf of the ESPC community, thank you, Reza, for taking the time today to complete this webinar. We really appreciate it.
And any additional questions, hit me up on Twitter or YouTube. Thank you, guys.
Super. Thank you, Reza.
Thank you. That was.
Oh, sorry. Time is of the essence, as you can see. So a big thank you again to Reza for his webinar today. This is the end of the webinar today. Please do check out all further upcoming webinars at SharePointEurope.com. Thank you for joining us today. Take care and goodbye.